All right, we're talking about the 2022 Southern 500 in this video. I apologize for the lighting. It's been storming and raining all day. I try to record with a lot of natural light, but obviously don't have that. So if this is if the lighting is a bit of an issue, I'm sorry. I just decided to throw on a brighter shirt. So hopefully that'll try and help it out. Let's go ahead and talk about this stuff real fast. It's the start of the month. If you want to join the Patreon, support me, support Pearce, support the work that we do, and get numerous things by joining. Because look, I understand NFL season is right around the corner. This is really the first time in a while that you can openly celebrate 9/11, okay? That Sunday comes around, you wake up with a smile on your face and just joy all around. You're going to be annoying your wife, your family, whatever the case is. You're like, man, it's 9/11. It's finally here. The NFL season is here. Now, everybody's jumping on that. Everybody's joining. Everybody's leaning and putting tons of time towards the NFL season. I would argue, and this is not just me trying to sell you something, I would argue this is the time to really dive in, focus on NASCAR, focus on other sports that aren't getting as much coverage as the NFL season. Because look, all the money, all the time, all the big pros, all the people who put tens and thousands of dollars into this stuff are not focusing on NASCAR. They might be throwing that into an optimizer this month, uploading the lineups, the morning of, but they're not really focusing on that. You know why? Because they're focusing on the NFL main slates. They're focusing on those contests, okay? They're focusing on Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Sunday main slate, the early slate, the late slate. They're focusing on all that. NFL is all-encompassing, a huge time-consuming product, or a huge time-consuming thing to focus on. So, look, we might as well focus our time on things that people aren't focusing on. So if you join the Patreon, technically it's August 31st, but you'll most likely be watching this in September. So if you're not a part, you can join me, or join me. You can join the Patreon, support me, and support Pearce. This is all the stuff you get, okay? Plus more. I just didn't want to be throwing stuff out. Also, please include your Gmail when you join. You get this basically in the Gmail stuff as a whole. Tons of sheets to go through. You also get my projections, my PDF with my heat map, my projections, my cores, my plays. You get access to my Discord as well. I'm very good at answering on there outside of like Mondays and Tuesdays because I'm trying to pack. I'm trying to get ready for the move that I have later in September this month. So Mondays I try and get all that stuff done. But certainly Wednesday to Sunday, if you're talking in the Discord, I am answering. If you message me on Twitter, I'm answering. If you message me on Patreon, I'm answering you. I give you my full attention. Outside of that, outside of the videos that we're doing here or that I'm doing, and outside of the live shows that I do, all that stuff, check out the sheer amount of volume that Pearce has been putting out. You gotta check these out. All right, I'll put the Darlington races, or at least for the Cup videos, in the comments here. It'll be the first pinned comment that you look at, but you got to check these out on your own, boys. I understand that we got, Daytona races and stuff that was going on, but when we look at these sheer amount of not only F1 refresher videos that you need to watch, you need to look at, check out all the Cup Series Darlington races, okay? This is not me, or Darlington videos, this is not me just like, oh my gosh, go check out our stuff. But it's the only things I listen to, okay? There's a reason I don't listen to other content. There's a reason I'm not subscribed to other sites. There's a reason I don't really go through other articles and stuff other than to find or have an idea of where ownership is going to land, is because, look, we have hours and hours of stuff here. For Darlington this early in the week, this is Wednesday. You most likely watch it on Thursday, Friday. We only got 2 races. This is a late race on Sunday. You got plenty of time to listen to this stuff. So let's kind of go in. Let's talk about Darlington. I'm going to at least bring this up real quick. These are the laps real fast from the spring race here. This is where I'm at, okay? The first Darlington race was pretty nuts. We can clearly see that by the amount of people who had great cars, great races, great speed being involved in wrecks, being taken out. If you look at the amount of cars that finished the race in the lead lap, I believe it's 20. And even more so due to the fact that, hey, Cody Ware, I thought Cody Ware only did good in Daytona. Look, when it's a wreck fest, when it's a race gets crazy, we're going to see guys perform extremely well and cars that just shouldn't be there, okay? We had, the sheer amount of yellows in this race, the amount of cautions that we had, indicated by the highlighted yellow numbers on here. You can see the amount of yellows coming out of the end of stage 2, the wreck before the end of stage 2, and clearly the amount of yellows inside stage 1 that completely just It doesn't change the race, but it changes the strategy for these drivers. Where do you start? Do you start in the inside lane? Do you start on the outside lane? There's a reason why Logano loses the lead early in this race because he just chooses the wrong lane. You can see that when you watch it back, when you look at the notes, whatever you want to do. I pause this right fast. When you go through and understand what's going on with this track, whether you're going to have guys starting on the inside, guys starting on the bottom, whatever the case may be, a lot of different things going on. When we look at the sheer amount of lap leaders, outside of the fact that we did have so many wrecks, when we look at everybody who was in first at some point in this race, let me go through real fast. Larson, no, I did not mean to do that. Oh boy. Where did we go? Pretty sure I moved. Let me pause it right fast. Again, I'll be right back. All right, I got that moved back to where I wanted. When we look at I guess I could just go to racing reference, but the reason I'm showing you this is to show you how drastic this race was, give you a quick refresher. When we look at everybody who had they were in the 1 column at one point in this race, okay? We have seen this lead swap multiple times. And Logano, yes, Logano was there. He had a decent car. I would honestly put him around the 6th or 7th best car that day because we had so many cars that were better than him, better in traffic, able to run different grooves, get through the field on long runs and really pass. It's not only the fact that you have speed on the long run, but it's also being able to get through on the short run because that's the only time you can really pass here. You know, there's two distinct times to pass here at Darlington, and it's really the first 2 laps on the restart. And if you aren't in the preferred groove, you need to have a good car to make up for that, or it's having long run speed out combined with the fact that you didn't have to, completely destroy your tires on the short run. Okay, but we look at these guys who are leading. Yes, Logano keeps leading here, but look at everybody else who nearly all day ran the top 10, who just ran into bad luck late in this race. Even Hamlin, the guy who most likely would have won in this race, he runs into issues, gets taken out, and gets taken out of contention for DFS purposes and stuff. A lot of guys are going to lead in this race. So when we look at who has been fast this year, who has been fast at intermediate tracks, we also need to remember 2 different things. We need to, and the reason I'm showing this is to try and get you in there. Maybe you're new to my channel and you're still here after the 9/11 references. I do appreciate it. When we look at the races that we have been through lately, okay, this is the part of the schedule that, gets a bit crazy. You got to remember that we have not really been at intermediate tracks since April, since May, okay, beginning of June, okay. We came out of the Coca-Cola 600, ran at Gateway, ran Sonoma, Nashville, I would argue intermediate tracks. Then we go to Road America, Atlanta, New Hampshire, Pocono, Indy, Michigan, Richmond, Watkins Glen, Daytona. It has been a very long time since we've been to a intermediate, okay. So you got to get that out of your system. You got to understand who was good in this period of the year, because I think that is going to be very much shown at this point in the season, okay? We got Darlington here, we got Kansas here. These are 2 back-to-back weeks that I think are going to be very similar in terms of who's going to be fast, who's going to perform. Who are those people? Why do I believe certain people are going to do that? When we look at how these guys rank in terms of how fast they are, who pops up there? Okay, when we see the sea of red, the sea of green, who is showing up there racing in the top 5? Because you got to be in the top 5 to have a chance to lead. You got to be in the top 5 to have a chance to get the lead on the pit road. And you got to have the top 5 to get a chance to get laps left. That's just how it is. Especially here at Darlington with how many laps this is. 367, I believe. Going to be a long race. It's going to be a long race. Okay, if your car is slow, if you're running high, if you're in the top 30, most likely getting lapped at some point in this race. If you're in the top 10, you're most likely, like if you're running 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere around there, you're going to be on the very edge of the lead lap at some point in this race. Especially if we get green flag laps, if we get green flag runs, you're also going to be at a risk of going a lap down late in this race, specifically in stage 3 when this race goes green. Okay, who here is looking good? Okay. What do you think about the playoff drivers? Do you think the playoff drivers are going to do better? Do you think guys are not going to do good because they're not in the playoffs? First off, the rules are made up, the points don't matter. That's just how it is. I hate to inform you guys, but half the field is in the playoffs, okay? And actually, it's 16. You know what I mean, okay? Half the field is in the playoffs. That doesn't change anything, okay? If everybody's in the playoffs, nobody's in the playoffs, okay? So don't worry about that, okay? Don't let that influence you. Oh, but what about Ross Chastain? Ross Chastain's going to get wrecked by somebody. He has made people mad. Have you not seen that he's been involved in an incident the last 7 races or 9 or 10 or the last 4 years of his life, whatever the case is? We can't be concerned about that. If you're afraid of playing Chastain because somebody's going to wreck him, I mean, you might as well not even be playing, okay? You can't be concerned about that. I don't want to be overweight on Chastain. He's going to get into an issue. I mean, we're here to play people who are going to win. We're here to play people who are going to run top 5 in speeds. If that's going to sway people off of Chastain, if that's going to sway people off Martin Truex Jr. because he's not in the playoffs, if that's going to sway people off certain guys, by all means, you guys can do that. But that is not going to scare me. I cannot be concerned about that. We need to realize that back in this portion of the year, Darlington, Kansas, specifically Kansas, when I went back and watched yes, Darlington, guys wrecked like insanity, okay? Kansas, we also had a lot of tire issues. Remember when everybody was crapping on Goodyear, be like, Goodyear needs to bring a better tire. Goodyear is putting these drivers in danger. And then it kind of just went away. It's wild how that happens. The teams understand the limits that they can do, and they're not crossing that limit. They're right at the edge, but they're not crossing it, okay? So we're not seeing tires blowing out like we were earlier in the year. We're not seeing tires go flat 23 laps in a run because they're running too low of an air pressure early in the run, okay? We're not seeing that type of stuff. We need to remember that was also a thing earlier this year at Darlington. It was a thing that you were basically stranded. You were a beached whale when you spun out and blew your tires. You were basically just on the roadblocks, okay? We've made changes. The teams have adapted to this type of stuff, okay? So why don't I think this race is going to be as insane as the first Darlington race? Well, Darlington's a difficult racetrack to begin with. It was really the second intermediate track that we went to, a third actually, because we were at Dover. But I think Dover races more like Charlotte. Well, it races like intermediate track, but you combine that with the high tire wear that Darlington has, the high difficulty that you actually need, like the skill ceiling for Darlington in terms of the driver is really high, okay? Combine that with it's a one-groove racetrack. You run the wall, okay? That's how it is. Oh, but Brandon, did you not hear that? Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton is saying that these cars are durable. They handle a lot of stuff. Do they really? It's incredible how reactive NASCAR is as an organization. They're never proactive. They're never doing things before stuff. It's always after the fact, okay? Why did they extend the DVP policy to 10 minutes? Okay, because we're realizing that, these cars are breaking, and these teams need more time to work on these cars when they get in an instant, Sure, the body might be fine, but I like to look at this car as an insect, okay? This car is an exoskeleton, okay? When we look at this body and how it doesn't deform a whole lot and how it takes a lot of hits, oh, that's great, till you get hit in the right rear, till you get hit in the right front, till you get hit in the left rear, left front. If you get hit on the tire, you're breaking suspension, okay? You're breaking suspension components, whether it be the transaxle, upper control arm, lower control arm, whatever the case is, and teams have figured out how to repair that stuff. But those things are the weaknesses. Those things are the things that are causing people to not have a good car after they spin out. The diffuser, God forbid you spin out. You don't hit anything, but you scrape the diffuser on the transition between the banking to the flat part of the track. Sucks for you. You're done for the day because your diffuser is kind of destroyed, all right? That's just how it is. These cars are so sensitive now. And Pearce has talked about it a lot, that this car is, in terms of how it hinders people when they spin out, it's hurting the guys who are more aggressive, like Larson, for example. When you see him get in the wall, when you see him spin out, like Kansas is yet again another great example. Larson is top of the skill ceiling. He is there running 110% each lap. But if he spins out, he gets in the wall and stuff, he's still there. It doesn't take him out of the race, but he has to deal with damaged equipment. Okay? I'm not exactly sure what point I was trying to make there. That was a terrible point. Let's get into the picks, to the plays, shall we? Sorry about that. Who do I want to go with, man? The Toyotas. Okay, who was absolutely killer from this point in the year to this point in the year? Who was good at Gateway? Who was good at Nashville specifically? If you want to look at it in terms of a timeline, when we look at a timeline, we enter Las Vegas, first intermediate of the season. We can see where some of these teams are. Who was fast here? It was the Toyotas right off the bat. Kyle Busch just ran away with that race. Well, yes, but you need to understand the context behind that. Not only did JGR bring a dominant car to Kyle Busch. That was also a backup car. Kyle Busch destroys his car in practice. They bring out a backup car. Kyle Busch absolutely is killer. Runs a stellar time at Las Vegas. I believe Bowman wins it. But in the grand scheme of things, and when you look at where I believe Bowman is down here. Yeah, Bowman wins Las Vegas. Kyle Busch finishes 5th. You got to remember that Kyle Busch that was a backup car built overnight following the practice, or following the, I forgot if it was a Q practice or if it was a practice crash or a qualifying crash, whatever the case was. Kyle Busch was there. Who else was there? Who else was fast? Ross Chastain. And then you get to the Toyota boys, okay? Truex, 6th fastest. Bell, 9th fastest. Hamlin, 7th fastest. Larson was there too. We see that the Hendrick guys are there. But this was the intro to the intermediates. Right off the bat, who had the idea of where to go at these cars here? Okay? We move on a little bit. Teams take those data points that we've kind of looked at, that we kind of used as a testing ground, see where we're at Las Vegas. They move that and go to Dover. Who was fast at Dover? We also need to remember that people just didn't want to play the Toyotas all year, okay? We've consistently had underpriced Toyota drivers, okay? But who was fast at Dover? It was Denny Hamlin, okay? But he's 11th fastest here. Denny Hamlin wasn't that fast. You need to remember two things, drivers. You need to remember two things, okay? Hamlin runs into multiple issues, drives through the field multiple times, and gets taken out or involved in a Cody Ware accident. When we look at where Hamlin finishes at Dover, him finishing 21st, him having the 11th best car, and really even better, this is just considering where he had to run all day, Hamlin had a fantastic car. Elliott was there, okay? We saw Elliott be a top 10 car at Las Vegas, improves to the fastest car at Dover, even with Hamlin and guys running into issues there. We see Kyle Busch be the 3rd fastest car. Chastain, top 5 laps again. Martin Truex Jr., top 5 laps again. Where are these guys here? Okay, Bowman, 5th or 4th fastest car. We're already discovering a pattern, and we're 2 races in. We're seeing that the guys are able to pull what they learned from Las Vegas, brought it to Dover, and they're able to build upon it. When we continue to look through this race, Dover, and this is real rating, and this is a combination of where these guys are running in terms of laps, top 5 laps, top 10 laps, in terms of percentage where they run. We need to remember that Larson has the best car at Darlington. He has the best car at Darlington, okay? He ends up blowing a motor. I forgot exactly what happened. I'm pretty sure he blows a motor. Overheats. Because he doesn't get in a wreck. Pretty sure I'm not looking at wreck. I just went blank. This is also another thing. If you're part of the Patreon, you have a notes section. I mean, first off, there's a lot of tabs in the Google Drive that or the Google Drive folder that we end up adding you to, however you want to call it. I always just refer to it as Google Drive. But say if you want to rewatch the race, we also do that for you guys. Outside of having to go to just Racing Reference and having a general idea, outside of the NASCAR notes that are provided in the optimal lineup tabs on the sheet sheet, we also have notes, okay? Pearce and I work on these. We add either when we rewatch them or if we find something interesting. Very easy to just Control F. Look up Larson. What happened to Larson? Okay, Larson does a lot of things. He spins tires. He wins restart. Let's see. He loves his car. He's running with it. He pits on a green, hood up. Lap 25 of 95 in stage 2. So yes, I was correct. Larson blows a motor in this race, okay? So Larson has an absolute killer car at Darlington. We've taken the car that basically had top 5 speed at Las Vegas. Not the exact car, but you know what I mean. Took those notes, had a top 10 car at Dover, has the best car at Darlington. It's incredible how poorly Larson has finished in a sense of not being able to cap off the win here, with just how stellar Larson has been. Okay, continuing on. Who else has been here? When we continue to look at Darlington, who had a fantastic. Hamlin had another great car. Kyle Busch, top 10 car all day, gets involved in a wreck, okay? We have Chastain. I would argue the best car in terms of being able to pass the field, in terms of being able to get through the field, in terms of, passing and get through the field, the same thing, but you know what I mean? Fantastic car all day. Chastain. where has Chastain been at the intermediates so far? He has had a top 3 car. Okay, and you get the drill. As we continue to go through, look at where these guys are. We don't see these guys dropping off. These are the teams who are here to play at the intermediate tracks. Why do I want to talk about Martin Truex Jr.? Why does him not be in the playoffs? Why doesn't that bother me at all? Because this is one of Martin Truex Jr.'s best tracks, okay? We have seen how Truex and Joe Gibbs in general are running at intermediate tracks this year. We're seeing how well they're doing, okay? I understand Truex and other people alike, because this year has been very chaotic. We're not getting the finishes out of him. When we look at Truex specifically, we've seen very up and down types of finishes, but he runs in trouble. But at this point, everybody's running in trouble. I don't think that's anything to hold against Truex. I don't think it's anything to hold against Larson. I don't think it's anything to hold against Ross Chastain. People are like, oh, Ross Chastain's going to get wrecked. Look at all these finishes over here, Brandon. Look at where he's finishing. Okay, Hamlin puts him in the wall at Pocono. Look at all the other races we made it through that he didn't get there. Okay, Chastain spins late in the day at Watkins Glen. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. Man, he ran into issues at Richmond. He ran into issues at Martin. That's fine. We're not concerned about these types of tracks. Okay, sure. We can take some of this data from the intermediates and apply it and expect, okay, these guys will probably run pretty decent at Michigan. But I'm not using how he ran at Michigan, how these guys ran at Michigan, to then go back and say they're going to run exactly like that at the intermediate tracks. We're using the intermediate tracks that we have seen from these guys this year. Okay, so when we look at that, and we look at where I want to go, and we look at how I want to build lines, who is green here? Okay, it's Chastain, it's Kyle Busch, it's Martin Truex Jr., it's Chase Elliott, Hamlin, Larson. I've named 7 people there, and some of those guys aren't the most expensive. Yes, Larson is. Yes, Hamlin is. Yes, Elliott is. But Chastain is $10,000. I think he's underpriced. Martin Truex Jr. is $9,500. I think he's underpriced. Another guy I haven't even mentioned yet because I haven't even made it out of the 8-9K range, but we see William Byron. We see Christopher Bell, 89 and 87 respectively. These guys are fantastic plays. I like this. When we're looking at Darlington, we're looking at probably a 4.5-hour race, if not longer. When we look at a race that is most likely going to have 3 lap leaders due to the transitions, due to the pit selections and the pit crews really showing up, being a gigantic importance in this race, okay? We can build lines very easily that have 3, I would argue, if not 4 guys who can have a chance at getting fast laps and laps led, okay? That's how I'm at. I'm going to have a absolute crap load of Martin Truex Jr. I'll probably end up being 100% of Martin Truex Jr. I think he's underpriced. I think he should be in nearly every line. I think he should be there. And not even just for Darlington, for the whole rest of the year. Okay, as I just said, playoffs don't matter. Half the field's in the playoffs. Who cares? Okay, that is not a thing I am even concerned about. All right, Truex Jr., $9,500. Gonna be an absolute core play. You know, every line is going to be built with him, in my opinion, built with him in mind. Okay? Those are the stances I want to take. Chastain, same thing. I think the way to go about this race, and yes, you know, qualifying is going to be a deciding factor for some guys, okay, because I necessarily don't want to pay up for a place differential. I necessarily don't want to pay up for, like, not like an end-all be-all. That's why I said, like, 4 guys, okay? I like Chastain. I like Truex. Depending on who we use at the bottom, we can very easily get up to Larson, who is most likely going to have a killer car, is going to be there all day to lead. Okay, we can get different. We can play around with value plays. And really, I understand the value plays are here or are a bit weird, but Gilliland, Custer should be the 2 guys that I end up going to the most. Okay, Gilliland is consistently, you know, in the 5K range, going to be fine, especially when we're trying to build a line here. I would not even be shocked if I'm considering getting to Cody Ware and stuff. That's just where I'm at. The reason is because if I can nail all the lap leaders, which the optimal lineup is clearly going to have that, okay? Cody Ware at $4,900, cheapest. That's just what we're going to have to deal with. When we look at why is his... I need to fix that. I'll fix that later because Ware's results are not popping up on the sheet. Yet again, do you guys want to build your own sheet, or do you want somebody else to worry about this stuff, you know? Actually, I'll tell Pearce about that because When I mess with the sheet, I end up messing stuff up. Gillen, $5,300. Cole Custer. Okay, if Cole Custer shows up, because qualifying is huge here, track position is huge here. If Cole Custer shows up and starts top 15, and all we need is him to hold that. We don't need him to get in the top 10. We don't need him to lead laps. Okay, as a value play, $5,500. Start 15, start 16. Just show me some type of speed and qualifying Custer, you'll be fine. I'll say the same thing to Ty Dillon, Harrison Burton, and even Daniel Hemrick. Okay, I would not be shocked if I'm using 2 of these guys to try and get up to as many of these people as possible. When we look at early types of builds that I think make a lot of sense, it is people like Busher, like Wallace, like Eric Jones, okay, even McDowell to an extent in the 7K range. If you're using a 3, really, or not 3, I'll use 3 lap leader lines. Like if you're using like Chastain, Truex, Larson, you go down to Gilliland, you can very easily get up to, your favorite play in the 7K range. You can very easily get up to Eric Almirola for $6,400. I think, and the reason I'm saying this, the dead range to me, the range that is going to be very interesting in terms of if somebody shows up, like Christopher Bell, like Harvick, like Bowman, even Suarez, if these guys show up with speed, and we can see them being a guy who can get fast laps, maybe get an advantage on pit, especially if they have a good pit stall. Alex Bowman, Suarez, Harvick, Bell, guys that I think could very easily make most lines be built with 4 guys that can lead laps, okay? I would not be shocked to see Christopher Bell get fast laps in this race. That would not shock me. And actually, Christopher Bell is probably my favorite play in the 8K range due to the fact that we have seen consistent improvement and consistent speed from this car. Do these, in terms of where he is in terms of speed, and really where he was in terms of speed in the previous Darlington race, with how wild that was, with how wild the race was, the fact that he ran 96% of his laps in the top 10 and 30% of his laps in the top 5 at $8,700, that is incredible. As Kyle Petty would say, that is incredible. Okay, let's go ahead and look at how he ran. Vegas, top 10 laps. Always good to see. If you're bare min, you need to run that as well. Let's continue to go through. Let's see where these guys are in terms of speed. Okay, we get to Dover, 9th fastest. Okay, no fall off. We're still in the same pit situation, but that is good to see, especially when we have teams going up and down throughout the first 2 races. It's good to see that. We see significant improvement from Bell, kind of catching up with the other Joe Gibbs drivers. Sorry, I just hit the mic there. 5th fastest at Darlington. 4th fastest Kansas. 5th fastest, at Charlotte. Okay, all right, it's been a while. Let's see how he ran at Nashville. Okay, Nashville. 10. I mean, Bell is there as well. Bell is there. Wow, I'm so cool. I get to rhyme. Christopher Bell is there, $8,700. And so, if you don't want to chase somebody like Larson, or if you don't want to chase somebody like Chastain, and if you build, say, a line that goes Larson, Truex, you can very easily get to Christopher Bell. That's 3 guys in there that can lead laps. That's 3 guys in there that can compete for wins, that can compete for situations, specifically when you're looking at Joe Gibbs racing in general. I like the type of build, specifically being built with Gillen, because I want to try and go as low down the salary range as possible without necessarily getting to BJ McLeod, JG Elliott, or Cody Ware. If I get there, that's perfectly fine. There's enough laps out there that can lead that to being very viable. And plus, you're going to cash with that. Like, if your line, okay, and this is one thing that people just don't understand. This is not because of last week, okay, but it's short tracks, and at tracks that have a lot of laps, all right, and even weeks that it doesn't. Cody Ware scoring you 22 points is not the reason that line did not cash, okay? Like, Cody Ware scoring 17 points is not the reason that line did not cash, okay? When you can nail the lap leaders, when you can nail the people that are there, those guys are not killing your lines, okay? So also keep that in mind. If you're not like me, if you're not so bullish on Truex, okay, it's same verse, second verse, same as the first, okay? If you want to go Larson, if you want to build with Bell in your line, you can very easily get to Truex, okay? Bell, Chastain, Larson, Gilliland, $7,300 on the table left for you to go wherever you want. I think that's why the 8K range is absolutely and certainly for GPPs, but is a place that I think initially gets left out, okay? Is a place that initially gets kind of underweight based on projections because everybody wants to go Larson. Everybody wants to go Chastain. We haven't even really messed around with building lines with Busch and Hamlin yet. But if everybody's wanting to go around those guys and they're kind of hesitant because Truex isn't in the playoffs, okay, the AK range is going to get left alone. Okay, you're going to have lineups that just aren't able to get to the 7K or not able to get to the AK range, and you're stuck going to low 7s, high 6s. With Jones, Buescher, Bubba Wallace, Stenhouse. Okay, Eric Almirola, which I think Eric Almirola is a great play here, just based on his pricing, based on what he can do. Let's go ahead and really kind of dive into these guys here. And why am I showing this? Why am I doing this? Because I don't normally show it. Well, because I'm hoping that I'm getting some more viewers, okay? Like I said, we're near the start of the NFL season. I kind of want to give you an idea of what we have. Clearly, this isn't everything, okay? But it gives you much better context when I go over things. And when I say things, why do I say certain things? Or what data points am I using? And yet again, this isn't the only data points that I use, but it gives you more of a context versus just me staring at a screen or you staring at me with nothing on the screen, okay? When we look at this range specifically, who has been, we're going to include Bubba, okay? Because I'm looking more towards builds. Like I was going to move up and look at Briscoe, Dillon, which, I mean, you have eyes, you can look here as well. But in terms of building lines, I think you're going to be very much centered around the $7,300 to $6,400 range for one of these plays somewhere right here. So let's specifically look at these guys here and where they are in terms of speed, okay? So right off the bat at Las Vegas, why am I not looking at Fontana? Because that was a fucking mess, okay? It was the first race. These guys were running rough. Where are these guys at in terms of speed, okay? We have, and clearly Kurt Busch is not going to be in the car. Ty Gibbs will be in the car, but he is in the player pool, so we have to put him in there. When we look at Las Vegas, top 20s for both these. When we look at where these guys are, Stenhouse, and specifically Stenhouse, we need to remember, okay, we have seen a lot of red as of late. Where was Stenhouse earlier in the year in terms of speed at intermediate tracks? Look at this, 12th, 15th, 6th. That's looking good. Okay, first real race with JTG Daughtery, which horrible name. First race this year, right off the bat for a C-tier team. I know I'm probably insulting some JGT Daughtery fanboy by saying, but that is what it is. Okay, there's a reason they cut down from 2 cars to 1 car. There's a reason they could only afford 1 charter. Okay, this is very much a C+, B- type of team. Okay, right off the bat, we're seeing Stenhouse have a top 16 car. That's good to see in terms of speed. When we got to these intermediates here, top 15 speed. That's good to see. That isn't a fluke. That's 4 weeks in a row right there. At drastically different types of intermediate tracks. Yes, I think Dover and Charlotte lean very much on each other. I think Kansas, you can see how, not that they're identical, but like if you're good at Kansas, you're most likely to be good at intermediate tracks and vice versa. And look, I'm not going to get into details of how I rank these stupid tracks in my brain, but you get the point. Like, these are not flukes, okay? It'd be different if you had like 115 and we're back to 24th. Maybe, okay, just that one. But no, this was a period to where Stenhouse was very, very good. Okay, we saw this whole year, and this is where they were in terms of racing. Let's see where they were. Let's see where Stenhouse was in terms of finishing these races, okay? Because maybe that might drive some people off. Because Spenhouse, Wreckhouse, he's just a bad guy. Oh, he ran into issues at Las Vegas, Brandon. We can't play him there, okay? But what happens if we just get some luck in his way? As we'll most likely have somebody, if not 2 people, who are top 10 contenders wreck out at Darlington because they get in the wall. They break something. They get caught speeding on pit road. They have a bad, just a bad pit stop, whatever the case is. What happens when Stenhouse just gets a little bit of luck? We're not saying that he's like, that he just completely backdoored in. It just what happens when they don't make a mistake and they can capitalize on other people running into issues. What happens there? Oh, all top 10 finishes. Okay? People were like, oh, these were absolute luck finishes. No, it's not. Look, he is putting himself there. You don't just randomly get luck finishes in the top 10 if you're not putting yourself in a position to be able to take those advantages. Okay, so Stenhouse, $6,500. I think he's mispriced. I like him. I like Eric Almirola because of these reasons and because of how he's ran here. Yes, we can look at Eric Jones, and I think Jones is going to be just fine. Bubba Wallace, oh, but Bubba's driving the 45. Look, all it is just a reskin. Good Lord, people. Like, they're going to be decent car. Like, he's and we're seeing Bubba run better, too, okay? We're seeing a drastic improvement from how Bubba ran earlier this year. And a lot of that stuff was self-inflicted, by his pit crew, by his team. Okay, so Bubba Wallace at 7,300 is most likely going to be a good play, most likely going to start top 15. However, for a discount, for an $800 discount, I like Stenhouse. I like that. Oh, but Brandon, do you know how many times he's wrecked at Darlington? Do you know how many times he's finished poorly at Darlington? I understand that. I understand he wrecked in like the first lap back from COVID. I understand he had issues and stuff. And I understand that we're seeing him around these situations. But we're seeing that, yes, add people back in the race that most likely would have wrecked out. Stenhouse is still getting around a 13th, 14th, 15th place finish. That's nothing bad. $6,500, that's not bad at all. Really adding on to the fact that we might see a situation where he qualifies, 20th or something. That's perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine with that, especially when we're having to build in a range that is going to be very populated with people. Like, ownership here is going to be, I think it's going to be centered around probably Haley, because Haley usually gets a lot of ownership. Probably Eric Jones and Castle. People are going to want to move up to here. Maybe Busher, maybe Keselowski. I like Stenhouse, man. I like him in the 6K range. That's where I want to go to. When we're building lines, like I said, I want to lean to 3 to 4 guys who can give me fast laps. Okay? And also, when guys get off sequence here, you're going to start racking off fast laps as well. When we look at the people who like to short pit, the people who like to control the race, people don't talk about that enough either. Okay, when you short pit, when you pit first, you're in control of the race. You are dictating other people's strategies. Okay, people are having to react to you. Okay, who is almost always the first cars down pit lane? It is the Toyotas. Toyotas. And specifically, it's Truex. That team loves to be the first ones down pit lane. They love to do that, okay? That is going to pay huge at Darlington. With the fall-off that we have, with the amount of fall-off that we're going to have in the long runs, if you're the first one down pit lane, or if you're part of the group who goes in the first lap, and specifically the first 2 laps, really the first lap, because I think that's what the Joe Gibbs guys are going to be a part of, really the first tier of guys pitting, because not only do you, to take advantage of short pitting, you have to be in the top 10 anyway, but you have to kind of be pressing on the top 5, or at least be a risk to the leader for them to react to you as drastically as they will by pitting right after you. Bell, Truex, Hamlin, Kyle Busch, gonna be right there. Chastain, gonna be right there. Even if they don't have the lead, they can dictate the course of the race by pitting first during these runs. Okay, when you pit first, you're automatically gaining seconds on the guys who stay out, even just 1 lap. That is huge. Okay, that is huge. We saw it last year, to where Chastain stays out to try and make it to the end of I think it was stage 1, and he ends up getting lapped right at the end. Like, you have to pit here, and you can't afford to stay out. The fall off is far too much. Okay, so just another reason, in my opinion, of why we lean on the Joe Gibbs guys, because they have fantastic pit crews. Okay, they have fantastic strategy calls. Outside of Kansas, I don't know what the fuck that was. Okay, but they have fantastic calls. They know how to dictate a race. Okay, the way they are showing speed at intermediate tracks this entire year. Okay, they are gonna be in contention for the win. Okay, that's why I'm focusing on Joe Gibbs so much. Okay, we have seen Elliott perform extremely well here in the past. We have seen clearly Larson. I don't have to like Larson. This type of track leans into his skill level or his skill set. Leans into Elliott. I don't know why Reddick is this high up. I think that's a terrible misprice from Reddick. I'm gonna have no Reddick. I'm gonna have probably no Logano. I think there's much better cars in play than Logano. I understand that he won, but he was not the best car in the first Darlington race. A lot of things went his way. I'm not saying he was bad, but when you rack him up compared to how other cars were performing, he's probably around a 6th, 7th best car in that race. Okay, same thing with Blaney. Not going to go there. Byron, interesting if you want to do like a one-off. That's perfectly fine. And I'm speaking about this from probably a 10 to 15 type of lineup, type of build this weekend. That's my approach here. Byron, maybe. I want to absolutely nail Bell. So who are the guys that I absolutely love right now on a Wednesday, really based on price, really based on what you can do with your cars, your lines, really based on to how I think they're going to arrive to the racetrack, okay? Because I still want to look at practice data. But if somebody's like, running a super long run, it's going to tank their, 5, 10, 15 lap averages. That's perfectly fine. We need to also look at, yet again, if you're new or whatever, when we're looking at practice time this year, the session is so short. It's more so guys trying to make sure that the car is going to run well, because guys are going to understand what they can and can't do with the car anyway. I think the car, in terms of speed, shows up the most in qualifying. I mean, it always has, but this situation where you really can't have a specific Q type of setup run well in qualifying and then drastically fall through the field. And we have seen it before, okay, but at a race like Darlington, you're not going to fake the speed here. You're either going to have a good car, you're going to advance to the top 10, or you're going to be right at the very edge. You get bumped out in case you're in a stacked qualifying group and you start 11th, 12th, 13th, as we've seen before. Or you just don't even, you're not contending to start in top 20. Okay, that's just how it is. Who do I like? Really quick, the rundown, the picks, early week picks. Larson, Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Chastain, Truex, Bell, Stenhouse, Eric Almirola, Todd Gilliland. Those are the guys that I like right now based on pricing, based on what I'm seeing in terms of the builds that I want to use, getting an idea of where I want to go with guys, getting an idea of where I want to do with my money. Those are the places that I want to look at. As I said, maybe I didn't talk about the spring race as much. Maybe I didn't go into as much detail as you want about a specific race, or why haven't you talked about optimal lineups yet? Okay, well, Pearce has put out a ton of videos talking about optimal lineups, talking about how these races have played out, talking about how these guys are performing in terms of 5-lap speeds. Okay, it does not make a ton of sense for me to repeat the same data points and repeat not even data points. That's making it sound like I'm sweeping it under the rug, and I'm certainly not. But in terms of using our time, it doesn't make sense for me to go over the exact same things that he said. It makes more sense for me to bring up different things that haven't been said, or just reacting to how I want to personally approach this weekend at Darlington. So thank you very much for listening. Consider supporting us. Consider tuning in to the live shows for Xfinity, for the Cup Series this weekend. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And remember that the NFL season is here, but that does not mean we can just sandbag NASCAR DFS or just kind of, step out, kind of space out because everybody else is doing that. Let's use this time to get deep in this. Let's use this time to get deep into the pit data, deep into where these guys are running, deep into how I want to construct lines for NASCAR because everybody else is not focused on NASCAR. Thank you guys very much. I will see you in the live shows on Sunday. I think I'm going to record my Xfinity Series video tomorrow because it is getting more and more dark out there, and I don't want to just be in a black hole. So thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you guys later.